Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Everyone and their Dan thinks that they know what can make football better. So today we're going to be talking in this week's Attacking Football pod about rule changes that would make football better. So, as I said, everyone and their Dan. Dan, you can start this week's episode about what you would change in football.
I think there's really a very talked about one that seems a bit obvious and everyone's brought it up every now and again, but it's got to be the stop clock. And for anyone who's ever watched basketball, what happens is when the ball's not on play, the clock stops. That's it. It's paused. And then when the ball comes back onto the court, it continues again. And I think it's something that a lot of fans would really appreciate because, first of all, the amount of time wasting in the game is nuts. I remember hearing a statistic that for, no surprise, a Burnley game when they were last in the Premier League, I think the ball was in play like a maximum of like 45 or 50 minutes. An insane amount of time was just the ball out of play, time wasting, players rolling around. And I think in that way, it cuts it out, completely changes that strategy. But it also means then for players that they know that if they're looking to have a certain amount of stamina level, to have a certain amount of fitness level, it could be a 60-minute because the ball's in play on average about 60 minutes.
Yeah. I think last season there was some points made against Newcastle's sort of style of play as well, where they were time wasting a lot. And the thing is, a football fan wants to go and watch a game of football. They don't want to see time wasting. So it would make the game more about the game rather than the cheating and the tactics that they can do to waste matches and get points. It would eliminate some styles of managers as well. I think it would mean that fans would get more value for the money. It would be a more entertaining game. There'd be more intensity, and you'd probably get a few more players getting injured. I'm not gonna lie.
I think with this rule, you'd have to probably reduce the amount of football played. You'll probably have to make games maybe like 70 or 80 minutes instead. Because I think expecting footballers to run around for 90 minutes with like just straight with no stoppages, it'd just be too much as it is. Like even players now, they're getting fatigued very much because the amount of football they're playing.
I think the thing is, if you were like comparing it to basketball, as was said earlier, with the stop clock they have like the thing they have as well is they've got a limit that you're able to hold on to the ball. So potentially adding something like that as well in would be super interesting. And you get a more intense game. Yeah.
And it's even small things like, first of all, could you imagine like Klopp's hyper press on their 90 minutes would be nuts. But again, as I said, the games in play on average 60 minutes anyway. So having a 60-minute stop clock and actually 60 minutes of true football and not this rolling around, I think the players would benefit, we would benefit, overall the sport improves. And I know people might be a bit controversial, 60 minutes of football, but that's what's in play anyway.
Even get that now.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. I think it's a good rule that would definitely improve football. I don't think it's that controversial either.
Americans are all good. They got one thing right at least. MLS penalties.
Oh, sorry.
I said they've got one good thing. MLS penalties. If anyone's never heard of them, it's essentially instead of stepping up from 12 yards out, they'd run from the halfway line and go into a 1v1 with the goalkeeper. So I think it'd make it more fair. There's definitely more skill involved in that. And I think it gives the keeper a better chance of making the save for their team as well.
It's not pure luck then, it's more skill. I like it.
Yeah. Just to clarify, is this for like the end of it, like a draw? Or do you mean like if I hack someone in the box, absolutely crush them, that I'm making a red, but really I'm making them run the halfway line in the 90th minute where they're already dead?
Imagine they've broken their leg and then they have to run up.
No, this would only be for like penalty shootouts, not like penalties in games.
I think that makes sense. And I remember seeing the video of this way back in I don't think it was even the current MLS. I think it was whatever version the MLS was in the 80s and 90s. And it just looked so much fun. And maybe that's just like the Americanism of it, but I'd love for that to come back. But it would be very, very funny to see like the Champions League decided on something like this.
It just sounds more fun.
It does. A bit more chaos. We need a bit more chaos in the football, you know?
Football needs a little bit less structure. And to be fair, the chaos of football is what makes it fun, like the decisions and all that sort of stuff. So I think one thing that for me has sort of ruined football over the last few years has been the implementation of VAR. So if I was to change football for the better, I would remove VAR, especially in its current iteration of what it is. I think I think footballers can't celebrate now. When they scored a goal, they're afraid to celebrate and run over to fans because they look like idiots if they've celebrated a goal that doesn't count. So for me, I think as well with the marginal calls of where a player's like nose hairs could be offside and then they're ruled out as offside, I just don't see the points in it. I sort of like the idea now when I look back at it of referees being incorrect because at least there was the flow in the game. Now VAR makes a mistake and there's the 2 or 3 minute spell where they have to draw the lines. I just think it's boring and it adds an element to the game that's just unnecessary and it slows down the pace. It gets rid of a lot of the raw emotion of a goal as well.
I am going to disagree, and I'll lay out my arguments. And it's maybe not a bit more emotional, but especially in the Premier League, when you look at the gulf in funding between the Championship and the Premier League, which is a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
But when there's so much at stake, not just obviously winning a game, but the difference between relegation and staying up, or winning the league and not staying up, or even for like getting top 4, getting top 6, that I would prefer to even if it takes an extra 2 or 3 minutes and know the actual result rather than
Can I
VAR.
give you
I
a
would
very
also
good
say
counterpoint?
I would also say that the issue is never with the tools, but with the referees. And this
Can
is
I-
something that even in League of Ireland that we see a lot, that the issue is never with the technology, but just overall maybe bad refereeing. And I don't
You
think it's fair to
remember
blame the tool. Oh, the
remember Sheffield United?
but that was
that
that
goal?
was a different tool though. That was
Yeah,
Oh, that was
goal,
VAR.
that was
that was
goal
goal
line
line
tech.
technology.
That was
Yeah,
not
goal
VAR.
line tech.
Goal line tech.
Well, it
Was
wasn't.
it?
It
Oh
wasn't
yeah, it
set up
was. Yeah,
properly.
yeah, yeah.
Because
In
they had
in
all
that
blocked
case,
the
though,
cameras around,
Yeah.
around the goal.
in that case, though, I don't know why VAR wouldn't have been allowed to intervene because I'm sure they had cameras that could sort
Yeah.
something like that out because they
But
do
like
it for offsides. They could easily have done it for a goal.
the issue for me with VAR is it's still so inconsistent.
Totally.
Like
I
as
think,
in there's still errors in games. It hasn't ruled
yeah,
out
but that's
any.
the referees. I think.
And I do agree. It's not necessarily the errors, but it's even the what is seen as a penalty by one ref is seen as not a penalty by another ref, and just
Yeah.
by adding in all the
But-
replays doesn't change that decision. If that
But
makes sense.
Yeah.
refs have started bottling making calls. They've started
Agree.
bottling making calls because they know they don't have to make the calls, and then VAR won't overturn the decision because of the fact it's not clear and obvious. But the thing is, a penalty is a subjective thing. And then let's say the same situation where it's a 50-50 call where the referee looks at it and goes like, yeah, I could probably give that, but I'm not going to because I'll look like a fool. I'll let VAR make the decision. VAR won't make the decision because they're like, oh, it's not correct. It's not added anything to the game. It's just added an extra layer of a referee.
I will point to a point to where VAR genuinely made a huge difference in a match, and it wasn't in the Premier League; it was in the Bundesliga. And please correct me in the comments here, folks. But Bayern Munich was playing, I think it was Frankfurt, and it was Frankfurt because Alonso was managing at the time, and I forgot the name of the player, but was in the box, and he went down, and the ref came over, gave him a red card for diving or a yellow card for diving, and that was it. But VAR had a look at it, and he actually was tackled in the box, was turned over, was a penalty, scored. Hold up. Later on in that game, the exact same situation happened. Same player went down in the box, was tackled, but the ref saw it as a dive, was sent off. VAR had a look at it, overturned the card, gave the penalty, and who was it? The team Xabi Alonso's managing. Oh
Leverkusen.
Leverkusen. Thank you.
Yeah.
It wasn't Frankfurt. It was Leverkusen. That they end up winning the game because of these two right decisions. And that, like, I think that's an example where good refereeing matched with with humble people who can admit that they made the wrong decision, means that Bayern, who would have just won this game anyway, controversial, and if VAR wasn't around, no one cared about it. But in the end,
I think the issue with VAR is it's great as an idea. Like, as in, we all agree with it as an idea, but in reality, it's not great.